Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is a little bit of an impromptu live stream that I decided to do because I have a comic that has arrived that I want to unbox, and I don't have enough content to make it a pre-recorded video that gets released to you guys. So I decided to do an impromptu live stream to unbox that so I can enjoy that book and you can enjoy it with me. And then I also needed to make an announcement related to the Comics Today show, which I have been doing on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So this is a great opportunity for me to be able to kill two birds with one stone. And before we get going, I want to say hello to a couple of comic book soldiers here, and then we will rip right into this. Wes is in here, Blue Wrench, Matt Woods. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. I think I saw Tina in here as well. That when I joined the chat and go live, it actually cuts things off from the beginning. So MythLab Music is in here. My man Jerry is in here. It's good to see you, my friend. Scrolling through some of the names. You guys were going back and forth. There she is. There's Tina. And there is young Matthew. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Super Honorable Nephew is in the house. How you doing? Wheels is in the house. CW. And so this is one of those things, man. Hopefully this going live a little bit earlier helps out some people out there that may be on the East Coast and maybe even in other countries. Chili's pull list has a giveaway that is going on right now on the Instagram machine. I reposted it to my story. If you guys get a chance, go ahead and check it out. Matt Woods put up a really awesome post making, some comments on that post that went up, that giveaway post that caught my attention. So if you guys get a chance, be sure to check that out on the Instagram machine. All right. With that said, let's not belabor the point, because I have been waiting 10 days for this box right here to actually make its way from Michigan to my house. And I don't know what was going on in Michigan, but this thing took forever to get here. So I am glad that it is finally here. This is like one of the few times where I actually knew something wasn't here, and because I was actually paying attention, and I was like, I really want this. And so it finally showed up. So now we're going to open this thing up. A little bit of some CGC cardboard in there. Let me raise my mic up. It's a little bit too low for me. And we are going to open this thing up and get a look at this book. And I will tell you, I stared at this book for probably 2.5 weeks before I bought it. I was going through the whole, do I need this book? Do I really need it? How certain am I that I want this copy of it? And so, man, they did a lot of packing on this bad boy. All right, so let's so I finally decided, after deliberating for a while, that I did indeed want the book. So I decided to pull the trigger. Let's go ahead and cut through that. Make my life simple. Man, this is, I did not expect so many layers. I mean, there are worse things that could have happened, right? It could have been completely unprotected. So I'm not necessarily complaining. This is where I normally tell people, you have first world problems. Your book is too well packed. But yeah, we are going to make our way through this thing. And I will tell you that this book was indeed purchased on Shortbox, the guys that I just formed a content deal with. And you guys should be seeing my content in the app, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. All right, so we got that open. That took forever. My apologies. I did not know it was going to be that bad. All right, so here we go. Too much tape, too much bubble wrap, too much everything, brother. No, Matt, Philly Boy is asking if it was FOMO. It's not. It's actually not FOMO. But the thing is we always have a lot of options that are out there for us to evaluate. And so what I try to do whenever I'm spending like real money, I want to give thought to like, do I really need this? Is this the right decision? Is there something else that I want to buy? Right. So, if I go with my first impulse and because I have a bias for action, that'll jam me up. And so I want to make sure that I actually think through, does this make sense? How does it fit with my collection? Like all the stuff that I tell you guys about, I literally try to live it, right? So I pump my brakes to ensure that if I do pull the trigger, that I won't regret pulling the trigger. And I'm going to tell you, as I sit here holding this thing, I don't think that I'm going to regret this decision. They have it in a Mylar, so this thing is looking nice and shiny here. So we're going to take it out of the Mylar real quick, so we can get a good look at this. And this is a cool book. So the other day, about 2 weeks ago or so, I was watching the Nicolas Cage movie, Ghost Rider, and I was inspired to snag it. Here it is, man. Ghost Rider #1. This is an 8.5 with white pages. The first appearance of the Son of Satan, and also it continued from Marvel Spotlight. This is, in my opinion, a really, really awesome book. So I'm definitely pleased to have this one in the collection. Just a classic Ghost Rider cover here. I've seen this one for years and years, and finally decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on this one. So this is a cool book. As you guys can see, I have a theme going on back here. There's definitely a period in time that I am aiming for, and this falls right in line with that. Ghost Rider issue #1. So I'm definitely pleased with this one. What is it? Xavier says, oh, wait a minute, are you talking to me or somebody else? I just sent one to CGC. It isn't an 8.4. Oh, I guess you are talking to me about that. But yeah, definitely a cool book, man. I'll tell you. So I was actually staring at 2 copies of this book on a Shortboxed app, right? One of them was, well, both of them were both 8.5s. Basically the same book. One was from CGC, one was from CBCS. And part of what I was thinking my way through is which book did I want to go for, right? Because I'm actually not anti-CBCS, not at all, right? But I'm staring at these 2 books, and the big differences were that this one has a little bit of an overwrap, right? Because you're seeing some of the white from the back cover, right? So this one has a little bit of an overwrap, and the other actually didn't have white pages. This one has white pages. And so I was sitting there like, what is more important to me, or what's going to bother me? Is the white strip on the side of this one going to bother me? Or is it better to just, embrace that and go with the white pages? And in the end, I decided to embrace the white pages. So 8.5 white pages, Ghost Rider issue #1. Definitely a cool book. Thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. I still, who is that? Geek says he needs to pick up the first appearance of Spider-Woman. It's a cool book, man. It's a cool book. That book, I actually traded for that one. I traded for that book, didn't buy it. I was able to work out a trade, and somebody walked away with a couple of really cool books. I think I traded 2 books, and I walked away with the first appearance of Spider-Woman. So definitely a cool book, and a deal that I do not regret, not at all. Tiger, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you. Alan, thank you, man. I definitely appreciate that. What is this right here? Oh, yeah, Tina says, I got Shortbox app too. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's a good app. It's a good app, just full of temptation there, Tina. I heard they found Nick Cage Stolen Action Comics #1 a few years ago. That's been missing for over it. Wow, that's crazy. Man, I'll tell you, man, a lot of people are having things stolen from them, and I'm not a fan of that. I'll tell you, I just don't think that it's cool when people steal from folks. And recently, Alfred, who is a member of this channel, I think he goes by Sith Lord. Yeah, Sith 713 Lord. He had his storage unit broken into, and they stole a lot of books from him. And one of the books, I do believe, was Wolverine #1 that he actually bought from me. What's crazy is that his collection was actually recovered by a local comic shop, and he has his collection back in his possession, which is really, really cool. So if you're interested in reading the story, if you follow me on Instagram, if you check out the story in my Instagram page, you can actually see the post that Sith 713 Lord put up talking about that. So shout out to that comic shop, the police officers, and everybody involved. that were able to help him recover his collection. Shout out to the folks that helped Nicolas Cage recover his Action Comics. That book in the last 10 years has probably dramatically increased in value. So shout out to him and for being able to recover that cash. So let me see. Did I miss anything? Cage already got paid by the insurance company, so I believe the Action 1 hasn't been sold. I was actually thinking about that as I was talking about it. I was like, I wonder if he had that insured, and I wonder if he recovered his money. So it seems Jerry is on it. Jerry's dropping knowledge up in here, man. So the other thing that I wanted to announce, so one, I wanted to unbox that book so I could actually enjoy it and stick it on my wall. The other thing that I wanted to do was to let you guys know that I am continuing to look for these opportunities to collaborate with other YouTubers. This is something that many people out there have kind of asked me to do. They're like, hey, how about collaborating with this person or that person? And so I want to let you guys know that tomorrow on Comics Today, I am going to be joined by Very Gary. Very Gary is a popular YouTuber. He's an authorized CGC dealer. He's a family man. And so he is going to be joining me on Comics Today to have a conversation about buying comic book collections. And if you think about, the theme that we've kind of been on, it is about comics as a form of investment. And so to that point, one great way to make an investment in comics is by potentially buying a collection and then turning around and selling parts of that collection off to fund your hobby and to fund your buying. And so Very Gary buys a lot of collections. And so we are going to have a conversation on Comics Today tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time about practical tips that you may be able to employ to actually find, purchase collections in your local area. So stay tuned for that. I'm actually excited about it. Never even spoken to the guy before, outside of direct messages and stuff like that. So this will be our first time literally talking to one another. And so I have every confidence that it is going to go incredibly well. So I hope you guys will tune in for that show tomorrow. Let me see. Geek says, awesome collab, Burke family. What does he say? Very Gary, never heard of him. Just kidding. It should be a good show. Thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Wes says, Reggie and Very Gary, awesome. It is going down, man. There we go. The Ninth Wonder says, great collab. Love Gary and Reggie. That's a super team. So I'll tell you what's crazy, man. What's crazy is that on YouTube, they now give you collaboration recommendations where they're like, hey, your audience watches this person or that person, consider them for collaboration. And so what's crazy is that I essentially know who my peers are, if you will. And it's Jim Mint, it is Comic Tom, it is Bueller, and it is Very Gary. And so those are essentially 4 of the individuals that consistently my audience crosses over with. And so it only makes sense to kind of do some collaborations when possible with those individuals. So again, my ask of you is that if you dig these type of collaborations, if you dig Very Gary, if you like seeing me interact with other people, I definitely want to encourage you to tune in to the show tomorrow. I'm actually going to be putting a post up on the Instagram machine a little bit later tonight. And if you can share that, that would absolutely be great. All right. Ariel says, you need your own category on Key Collector. We had it once upon a time and it went away, possibly never to be seen again. Scrolling down through the comments here. Jonathan, thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Very Gary and Reggie, one guy has hair, the other is just super handsome. There we go. That is exactly what Matt Woods just said. All I did was read the comments. All right. Scrolling through the oh, Crypt Keeper, you are hilarious. The thing is, I love doing interviews. I do it. And what I try to tell people is that when I do interviews, it's really not about me when I do an interview. An interview, regardless of where I do it or how it's done, whether it's a podcast, whether it's something here on the channel, it's really an opportunity for the person that is being interviewed to talk and to share with us some information that they have in their head. And so that's what so much of this is about. It's not about Regie. It's really about whoever it is that I'm talking with. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Very Gary or Jim Mint or a Blur Without Fear or a Comics Explained or CGC or someone else. It is just, it's about that person or those people. So we shall see. So there's a comment here from Philly Born. What I would say to you, brother, is I have never had a conversation with Blur Without Fear. I dig the dude. I actually listen to his content on a regular basis. There's a couple of guys out there that I listen to, and he is one of them because what he does is a little bit different from me, which is great, but I've never had a conversation with him. And so what's important for me is that I try not to be transactional. And what I mean by that is whenever I invite somebody to my show, they are being invited in many ways because I've had interactions with that person over a period of time. And so it's not like, hey, nice to meet you. Can you do me a favor? That's just not how I roll. And so I try not to be a transactional person. And so Very Gary and I've had exchanges over time. Jim Mint and I've had exchanges over time. Comic Tom, all of these guys. And so my thing is I would welcome having more people, but it has to be because I have a little bit of back and forth with that person. And unfortunately, I don't have that with Blur Without Fear. I would welcome it. I don't even know if he will reply to a message, to be honest with you. At a certain point, I think people get so busy that they can't necessarily respond to things. But what I will commit to, I will commit to you guys right now to sending a message and just starting a dialogue. It may take some time before we can get them on here, but you have my commitment that I will at least invest the time to make some magic happen. So scrolling down through some of the comments, seeing what else you guys are talking about. All right, so that I think I reached the end of it. What is this? What was the question here? Tina's giving somebody some information, says Regie has some videos about buying. Check out his list. Let me scroll up to see if I can find Jason's question. Here we go. How do you even find collections to buy if you weren't a regular person? I guess you have to tune in. Yeah, so the truth of the matter is that if you search here on YouTube, there's actually a couple of videos that I have out there that I give guidance on that. And if you search for Regie Collects collection or Regie Collects, I bought a collection or something like that, you should find a couple of the videos. But the truth of the matter is that there are a host of ways in order to actually find collections. Believe it or not, if you get to know your comic shop owner, you might actually be able to tap into some collections that way. And what I mean by that is that if somebody's driving down the street and they're like, I've got all these old books and I want to sell them, where do you think that they're going to take them? More than likely, they're going to take them to a comic shop. And oftentimes comic shops cannot buy every collection that walks in their door. They will buy a lot of them and they will try to cherry pick books, but you might actually, if you don't have a transactional relationship with your comic shop owner and you have a real relationship, you might actually be able to identify collections because they're walking in the door at your comic shop, and your comic shop owner will call you up and say, hey, this collection just came in, right? And there are people that are like, that won't work. Well, it won't work if you never try it, right? Because the truth of it is that there are lots of ways to find comic book collections out there, but not every one of them is going to work for you in your area. Not every one of them is going to work every time, et cetera, et cetera. But what I would say is I don't want to get ahead of Very Gary's recommendations and thoughts on how to find a collection. What I would say is search the channel for what I just mentioned, and then tune in tomorrow, because I have a feeling we may surface a couple of practical ideas that folks may be able to leverage, because that is my goal for this interview. Practical recommendations that anybody can actually implement. All right. So scrolling back through some of the comments here, I can see you on Thinking Critical. I think I've seen that show. I think I've seen that one. Sometimes I bounce around and watch stuff, but I actually don't commit the name to memory. But I believe that I've actually seen that one. Scrolling down through some. I wish I was dominating, man. I'm trying over here, brother. I'm trying. There you go. A couple of people, the Ninth Wonder, shouting out estate sales. I'm telling you, there are so many different ways to actually do it. Word of mouth, making friends with people, asking friends, relatives, and associates whether they have any collections laying around, taking out ads at assisted living communities and retirement communities. Who has old books? Old people. So this is the book that I actually unboxed a little bit earlier. It is Ghost Rider issue number 1. It is an 8.5 with white pages, a really, really awesome comic that I am pleased to have in the collection right now. And then the other thing that I announced was that Very Gary, the comic collection buyer, CGC authorized dealer, family man, is going to be on Comics Today tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So I definitely want to encourage you guys to check that out. And again, I'm going to post this up on Instagram, and I appreciate anybody that happens to share this out there in the social media community. All right. So scrolling down through the comments here, we are at the bottom pond. Look at the man. Look at these. Look at what is happening. Pretty flies like Method Man. This guy started sending me messages earlier this morning talking about Method Man and his Marvel show, and was it XM or Sirius? I can't recall which one, but you never know. You never know, man. Magic gets made all the time, right? And anyway, so I'm going to wrap this thing up. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit. I released a video earlier today, Comics as Investment. It is a continuation from the conversation that we started last week. If you have not yet checked out the video that was released at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time today, I want to encourage you to check that video out now. I think it's a good video. Got a little tongue-tied. It was late at night when I was recording that one, but I think you will still get the meaning behind the video. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit. If you need to reach out to me, you can do that on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.